In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you an easy way to mimic the look of glazed ceramics. And it's the perfect opportunity to use your metallic glaze and your favorite colors of alcohol ink. Hi, I'm Mihaela from Learn Polymer Clay, and let's dive in. Started by conditioning the gold metallic polymer clay. And then I passed it through the largest setting of my pasta machine, and then I've used a texture plate. I'm using Lisa Pavelka Paisley texture plate, and I've used this texture plate to create an embossed pattern on top of the clay. And then you'll just have to use your blade and remove the textured polymer clay. And because we are using metallic polymer clay, you'll have this pattern impressed into the clay, and this is called the mica shift technique. And then you'll have to use your roller and roll flat your clay. And then I am going to use a stencil that I'm lightly pressing into the polymer clay, and I'm using a dabber and 3 colors of alcohol ink. I'm using Pinata Sunbright Yellow, Adirondack Limeade, I think it's called, and Baja Blue Pinata ink. And I'm adding more ink on top of the dabber because I want to have more definition in the stenciled pattern. And I really like the way the gold metallic polymer clay looks in the finished design with this ink stenciled pattern on top. I'm going to use CreateAlong Lisa Pavelka triangle cutters in several sizes to make the pendants and all the clay components that I've made from using this technique. I've put some cling film on top of the clay, and then I've used the cutters, but it seemed that I did not press hard enough on the cutters. Normally they cut perfectly. And of course the cling film on top does not help when cutting through, but you'll just have to use your flexible blade and remove the excess clay. And then I am going to use some clay that is textured, as you can see, with the Lisa Pavelka texture plate, and I'm putting this textured clay on the back, and I want to have a beautiful textured design on the back of the pieces. And then you'll just have to use your dotting tool and add more interest. You can draw lines or make little dots into the clay. And then I've used my roller, and I'm rolling on the side of the bead. I'm trying to work a little bit on the shape of the bead. And then I decided to make a slightly mismatched pair of earrings. So for the second earring, I'm going to use some mica shift without inks for one side, and some mica shift with the stenciled design on top. And again, I'm going to use some clay that I shaved when removing the textured part for the mica shift. And then again, you'll have to use your blades and trim off the excess clay. Of course, you will need to use your tools, and why not your fingers, to smooth off the edges. And then I added some screw pins, and these screw pins will allow me to attach earring findings to these pieces. And then you'll just have to bake your pieces for 40 minutes at the temperature recommended by the polymer clay manufacturer. You can let the clay cool down, and then you'll just have to use sanding sponge and lightly sand the front of the beads. Even though I've used inks on top. If you just sand them lightly just to make them shinier, it's okay, you won't really remove the ink if you do this just lightly. So I'm not using a lot of grids, and I'm not insisting too much. I just want these pieces to be shinier, and then you'll just need a piece of denim to buffer the pieces. So I will do this sanding with water, of course, for all the pieces. And I'm sanding the margins as well, the edges of the piece. And I'm going to finish the process by applying glossy varnish. You could apply resin, of course. And for this piece I've used the CreateAlong border, long border that you can see on the right. And I really like the look of the pieces that I've made using this border, because in fact in the end I had a lot of beautiful scrap clay, and I decided to make more components and to make and to use small parts of the scrap clay, and use interesting cutters and put them together into more beautiful clay components. And then I decided to make a Chiang Mai with jump rings. You will have 3 jump rings into 3 jump rings into 3 jump rings, and I will finish by attaching the components using jump rings to this Chiang Mai. And here you have it, your own faux glazed ceramic components. And I hope this inspires you to experiment with color blends, surface textures and bold shapes. And if you liked this clay idea, here's what to watch next.